Hello, all you beautiful building foundations of literacy people. Welcome to my first try with flipping the classroom. Flipping the classroom refers to the idea that I can share things with you here outside of class so that we can sort of maximize our in-class time. Our class always seems to be so packed that I figured this would be a good place to um, give this idea of flipping the classroom a shot. What I want to talk about here is the final assignment for the semester. It is called the Philosophy of Teaching Literacy Statement. This is an example one. This example comes from a former student that was a dance major. First of all, you'll notice that it's a very short assignment, so it's the idea here is to be as concise and um, accurate as possible with your language. It's really, so for example, this one obviously it's about 2 pages single spaced. It mirrors the philosophy of teaching statement that you will be writing for job applications, except this one is really obviously focused on literacy since our class is building foundations of literacy. So the organizational structure is very straightforward. This is much different than the literacy survey assignment that I gave you that was very open-ended. This one has a very strict organizational structure that you can adhere to. This is also a very nice organizational structure for the ALST, by the way. Um, and the structure is basically a 5-paragraph theme. You can add and subtract paragraphs based on how many ideas you come to explicate within the essay. So let's take a look, for example, well, obviously this one is 5 paragraphs. Here's the introduction. This is the body paragraphs. There are 3 of them, 1, 2, 3. And then the 5th paragraph is the conclusion. This is the sort of, the most traditional structure for the 5-paragraph theme. So let's take a little closer look to make sure you understand exactly what you need to do for this assignment. So I'm going to copy and paste the introduction into a new document so that we can take a look at this and how it's structured. So here's the introduction. Obviously, I just copied and pasted it. It's from the assignment we were just looking at. What I want you to notice is we've got some overviewing statements. So teaching dance has always been something I could see myself making a career of. However, it was not until more recently in my life that I realized how much I actually wanted to become a dance teacher. Dancing has taught me responsibility, discipline, and the importance of hard work. It has also given me an outlet of self-expression and more joy than can be counted. Sharing what dance has given to me with students is one of the things I want most in my life. In my study of dance and study of education, I've discovered that there are so many philosophical approaches to providing students with a well-rounded education. Okay, so this is the opening of the introduction. These are really general statements showing this person's passion for being a dance teacher and what they hope to get out of it. And now we're going to move into kind of where this is all headed. 3 philosophies, which I have found to be essential in the classroom, are a highly developed vocabulary, freedom of expression and creativity, and peer-to-peer constructive criticism. With these tools, that should say tools, points off. With these tools, students will be prepared for dance class and the world that awaits them after school. So obviously what I want you to note here is that this is where you need to do the most amount of your thinking, is in figuring out what the 3 philosophies, you can have 4, you can have 2, somewhere between 2 and 4 I think is probably the best number, with 3 being the one that most I think will come to. So you want to think about what are the 3 core philosophies that you're going to take with you that we've explored in this class, making connections between literacy and teaching within your particular discipline. And so this student has focused on these 3. if we go back to the entire piece, the way this is structured then, the three philosophies are then represented here. This is the first one. This next paragraph speaks to the second. This next paragraph speaks to the third. And then here's our concluding paragraph. So let's take a look at this first explication of the first philosophy. So this should be about the first one, which is a highly developed vocabulary. So again, what I'm going to do is copy this and paste it into a new document so that we can take a closer look at what this paragraph is doing. So again, this is paragraph number 2. So let's take a look. Dance is a physical art where dancers move around the space using their bodies while people watch. Audiences rarely know what the technical terms for the movement they see are. In fact, dance has entire vocabularies for varying forms of technique. So obviously we've got things like technical terms, vocabularies, so this is right on track because the first philosophy was about making the connection between vocabulary and dance education. In ballet class, the dancers begin at the bar with a plie exercise, while the modern technique class may start off with an improvisation exercise in general space. It is imperative that students learn what all these words mean so that they can articulate verbally what they are watching visually and experiencing kinesthetically. This is a really nice sentence. What it's doing is now the opening of the paragraph, the first body paragraph, is explaining not only what the target is, in this case vocabularies, but also giving a really nice articulation of why this particular philosophy is really important to integrate into dance education. Vocabulary is also important because it tells dancers what parts of their bodies are working and when they are working. In order to provide a rich and complete vocabulary, there will be a word wall in the classroom, including all current vocabulary. Vocabulary will always be written out, spoken verbally as much as possible, and demonstrated physically when appropriate, so that all students can understand. Students will also be given take-home vocabulary worksheets for individual study purposes. To test the knowledge and understanding of vocabulary, there will be quizzes in which the students have to match terms to their definitions and define terms accurately in their own words. Students will also have to complete movement analysis assignments where they watch dance performances and identify the movement. When students create their own work, knowing the vocabulary will help them to record their movements easier, which will make remembering their movements easier. This is kind of a bad repetition here, but it's not a huge problem. Anyone can move around and say that they are dancing. I want my students to be dancers who know what their bodies are doing, when they are moving, and who they are able to verbalize their physical work. When they're moving and who are able to verbalize their physical work. Okay, so this does a really good job of number 1, okay, introducing the philosophy of literacy being linked to dance education. 2, it does a really good job of justifying the importance. Okay. And number 3, what this does particularly well is make concrete connections to actual classroom practices, strategies, activities, okay? So that's really what each body paragraph should do, where you introduce the philosophy of literacy statement being linked to dance, to your discipline, you justify its importance, so explaining why you think this is important. And then finally, this is an important one. Try to make some concrete connections to actual classroom practices. That'll be the expression of that philosophy of literacy being integrated into your classroom. I'm not going to go into the next two paragraphs, just to say that these should be doing the same three moves that this one did. Okay. I'll also put this one up on Blackboard along with a couple other examples so that you can see how the examples are kind of all working within the same tightly woven organizational structure. Finally, you have the conclusion. The conclusion is typically conceived of as a sort of mirror to the introduction. And so you go back and restate, obviously in different language, but restate some of the ideas that you brought up in the introduction. You can revisit in general terms some of the things you've gone into specific consideration in your body paragraphs, and even end on kind of the same way that this one started, this sort of this move towards, sharing your passion for your discipline and why you think it's important to you. And so that, I believe, will just about do it. I think we can obviously talk about this in class, but hopefully this gives you a really nice overview of what we're looking for in this final assignment. The most important thing is to really take your time thinking up what are your 2, 3, or 4 sort of core philosophies that you've taken about literacy that you really plan to apply to your classroom and to your discipline, and really thinking in philosophical but also very concrete ways about how you're going to express those things in terms of working with students, exercises, activities, strategies, etc. So thank you for watching.